There is a small saucer sitting on the windowsill above my kitchen sink right now, and it has been there since last May. It holds a handful of whole cloves pressed into half a lemon, and 3 inches away from it, on that same sill, I have not seen a single fly land in 14 months. Not one. And it cost me less than $1 to set it up. It does not harm my dog. It does not harm the honeybees working my clover field out back. It does not put anything in the air that my grandchildren breathe when they visit on Sundays. My name is Elmer. I am Amish. I have farmed 12 acres in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, for most of my adult life. I keep bees. I raise chickens. I have a garden that runs from the edge of the barn clear down to the fence line, and in summer that garden attracts every kind of flying pest you can name. I have dealt with flies my whole life, the way every farmer and every homeowner in this country has to deal with them. And I am going to show you, before this video is over, how to handle flies on your property this weekend for less than $8. The pest control companies charge between $150 and $350 for a single treatment visit. Some folks on recurring monthly plans are paying $40 to $75 a month, all season long, every year, $8 one weekend. The difference is just knowing what you are doing and where to aim your effort. Let me start with what most folks get wrong. When people see flies in their house or around their property, they think they have an infestation problem. They call a company, or they go buy a can of spray, and they start killing the flies they can see. That is the wrong target. The flies you can see are not the problem. They are the result of the problem. The problem is breeding, and it is happening somewhere on your property right now, whether you can see it or not. Here is what that means in real numbers. One female housefly lays up to 150 eggs at a single sitting. She does that 5 or 6 times in her life, which lasts somewhere between 15 and 30 days. Those eggs hatch in less than 24 hours in warm weather. The larvae feed for 3 to 5 days on whatever organic material they hatched in. Then they pupate for another 3 to 6 days. Then they emerge as adults and are ready to mate within 2 to 3 days of emerging. From egg to breeding adult in as little as 7 days. One fly becomes thousands by the end of a single month. You can kill every fly you see in your house today, and if you have not touched the breeding source, you will have just as many flies in 4 days. More in fact, because 2 or 3 new batches have already hatched while you were swatting. The pest control technician who comes to your house does not fix this. He treats what is visible. He sprays around window frames and door sills and maybe sets a glue trap or 2. Then he hands you a service agreement and gets back in his truck. The breeding source is still there. The eggs already in the ground, or in the wet garbage, or in the soggy corner of your compost pile are still there, and no surface spray touches them. This is why the people who call pest control for flies still have flies at the end of the summer. I am not saying those technicians are dishonest. Most of them are doing the job they were hired to do. But the job they were hired to do is not the job that actually solves your problem. My grandfather, his name was Amos, he understood this without ever reading a single scientific paper about it. He walked the perimeter of the property every Saturday morning in summer with a tin pail, looking not for flies but for the conditions that bred them. Standing water in a bucket that had been left upright after a rainstorm. Old feed left damp in a corner of the barn. A pile of wet straw that had not been turned in 2 weeks. He said, "You do not fight what is already hatched. You fight what is about to." That distinction is what this whole system is built on. Everything else I am going to show you flows from that one idea. So let me walk you through it. What I am about to describe is a 3-part system. You do the first part outside, around your property. You do the second part at your entry points, which means windows, doors, and any other place where outside air meets inside air. You do the third part inside, to handle whatever gets past the first 2 layers. Each piece handles a different stage of the fly problem. Together, they work all summer with almost no upkeep, and they cost almost nothing to maintain year after that first purchase. The first piece of the system is eliminating the conditions that allow flies to breed near your home. This is the foundational step, and most people skip it entirely because it does not feel like pest control. It feels like yard work or barn chores. But it is the most important thing you can do, because without this step, every other part of the system is just managing consequences instead of stopping the cause. Houseflies breed in organic matter that is moist and warm. Manure, wet food scraps, garbage that sits in a can with liquid pooled at the bottom, old pet waste sitting in the yard, a compost pile that is too wet and not turning. Anything damp and decaying within a few hundred feet of your home is a potential fly nursery. You do not need anything to buy for this step. You need a Saturday morning and a pail and about an hour of honest work. Walk your entire property. Drain any standing water in buckets, old tires, garden equipment, or anywhere else it has collected. Dry out any wet organic material in your barn or outbuildings. Spread or turn your compost so it heats from the inside rather than sitting wet and cool on the surface. A hot, actively turning compost pile produces far fewer flies than a cold, stagnant one. Clean the bottom of your outdoor garbage cans with a quarter cup of white vinegar diluted in a gallon of water. Scrub the bottom and let them dry completely in the sun before you put a new bag in. Flies cannot breed in a clean, dry can. They breed in the quarter inch of liquid and rotting food debris that collects at the bottom of a neglected one over the course of a summer. Pick up pet waste from the yard at least every 3 days during warm months. This single category of neglect is responsible for more fly breeding on residential properties than almost anything else, and it is completely within your control. This first step alone, done properly, cuts the fly population around your home by somewhere around half before you have touched anything else. It does not cost $1. I know it is not the exciting part of the video, but skipping it and going straight to the cloves or the traps is like trying to bail out a boat without plugging the hole first. You can keep bailing forever and the water keeps coming. One thing I will add here because people ask about it. If you have chickens or livestock, your fly problem in summer is almost certainly originating in the manure areas more than anywhere else. A single pile of wet chicken manure the size of a wheelbarrow can support thousands of fly larvae at any given time in July. You do not need to eliminate the manure, you just need to manage the moisture. Spread it thin so it dries. Use a thin layer of agricultural lime, also called garden lime, dusted over wet manure areas. Lime raises the pH and dries the surface, making it unsuitable for fly eggs. A 50-pound bag of garden lime runs about $8 to $10 at any farm supply store and covers a large area. It is not part of the main system I am describing today, but it is worth knowing if you have animals on the property, because without addressing the manure situation, the rest of the system is fighting uphill. Tell me in the comments below what has been the worst fly problem on your property and where it turned out to be coming from. I read every one of these, and the answers people give vary more than you would expect. Now here is the second piece, and this is where the cloves come in. And this is the part that costs almost nothing and works continuously without you touching it again for weeks at a time. Flies navigate almost entirely by smell. Their antennae are covered in odor receptors. They find food by smell. They find breeding sites by smell. They find entry points into your home by smell, following the warm air currents that carry food odors outward through gaps around windows and doors. This olfactory system is the foundation of everything a fly does, which means if you can disrupt that system, you take away a fly's ability to function near your home. Whole cloves contain a compound called eugenol. To a human being, eugenol smells pleasant, warm, spicy, like a kitchen at Christmas. To a fly, eugenol is so intense and so overwhelming that it blocks every other scent signal the fly is trying to read. The fly cannot smell the food on your counter. It cannot smell the overripe fruit in the bowl. It cannot smell the entry point it was searching for. It becomes disoriented and moves away from the source. Research using 25 to 30% clove extract concentration showed flies were effectively deterred within 1 hour of exposure, even in outdoor environments. You do not need the concentrated extract for indoor use. Whole cloves from the spice aisle of any grocery store release enough eugenol to do the job in a room or near a window. A bag of whole cloves runs about $3 at most stores, and that bag contains enough cloves to protect your entire kitchen and entry points for a full summer. With cloves left over, here is exactly how to set them up. Take half a lemon and press 15 to 20 whole cloves into the flesh of it, the exposed yellow fruit part, not the rind. You are using the acidity of the lemon to draw the eugenol out of the cloves and release it steadily into the surrounding air. The lemon acts like a slow release mechanism. Without the lemon, dry cloves release much less actively. With the lemon, you get a continuous low-level release that lasts 2 to 3 weeks. Place this on a small saucer. You want one of these set up on every surface where you have had fly activity. The kitchen windowsill, the counter near the fruit bowl, the ledge near the back door, the area around the trash can. 1 lemon half with cloves covers roughly a 4-foot radius at useful concentration. A standard kitchen needs 2 or 3 of them positioned at the main trouble spots. The error that causes this not to work for people is placing the cloves somewhere decorative instead of somewhere functional. Esther would put them in the center of the table in a little dish because they look nice there, and they do look nice. But the flies are not coming through the center of the table. They are coming through the window above the sink and the gap at the bottom of the back door. That is where the cloves go. On the sill, at the edge of the door frame, next to the thing the flies are actually trying to reach. Replace them every 2 to 3 weeks, or when the lemon has dried out completely. A dried out lemon still releases some eugenol, but at a much lower level than an active one. The first 3 weeks, when the lemon still has moisture, are the most effective weeks. Now here is the part that should make you uneasy, and I am going to be plain with you about it. The total cost of this second piece of the system is $3 for the cloves and about 40 cents for 2 lemons. The pest control industry, as of 2025, charges between $150 and $350 for a single fly control service visit. That is for one treatment. Many homeowners are on recurring contracts that charge $40 to $75 per month with an initial fee of $150 to $300 just to start the service. I have seen people on forums and community boards who have been paying those monthly fees for 3 and 4 and 5 years in a row and still dread every June because the flies come back just the same. A bag of cloves at $3 cannot pay a technician's salary. It cannot keep a branded truck on the road. It cannot justify a service contract with an automatic renewal clause. There is simply no business model built around telling you to go buy cloves at the grocery store. That is not a criticism of the people who work in pest control. Most of them are doing an honest job. But the incentive structure of that industry points directly away from the cheapest and most effective solutions, because those solutions do not generate recurring revenue. Cloves have been used to repel insects in homes and food storage areas for centuries. Long before there was a pest control industry. My grandmother kept a small dish of whole cloves on the back shelf of her pantry behind her glass jars, not because her mother had told her to try it once, but because everybody in her community knew it worked and had always worked. That knowledge did not disappear. It became unprofitable to pass on. That is not a conspiracy. It is just how the money flows. The third piece of the system is the indoor trap, and this one is specifically for fruit flies and any house flies that have already gotten inside, despite the first 2 layers. This is where apple cider vinegar comes in, and you may already have it in your pantry. Get a small mason jar, the half-pint size works well, and pour in enough apple cider vinegar to cover the bottom by about an inch. Add 2 to 3 drops of liquid dish soap. That is the complete recipe. Do not substitute white vinegar. White vinegar has a sharp, acidic smell that flies do not find attractive. Apple cider vinegar has a fermented fruit smell because it is made from fermented fruit, and that smell is exactly what a fruit fly has spent its entire evolutionary history being drawn to. It smells like the rotting, fermenting organic matter where they breed. They cannot ignore it. The dish soap does one specific thing. It breaks the surface tension of the liquid. Flies and many other small insects can walk on water and on still liquids because of surface tension, the thin film that holds the surface together. A fly will land on plain apple cider vinegar and walk right back off without drowning. Add 2 drops of dish soap, and that surface film collapses. The fly lands, expecting to walk on the surface, and sinks instead. Cover the jar with a small piece of plastic wrap held in place by a rubber band and poke 5 or 6 small holes in the top with a pencil point. The holes let the scent out to attract flies from around the room, but the small opening makes it difficult for a fly that has entered to find its way back out again. Set one of these on your kitchen counter and one under your sink if drain flies have been a problem there. Change the vinegar every week during heavy fly season because a jar that is already full of dead flies stops attracting new ones. You want fresh, active fermentation drawing them in. The cost of the apple cider vinegar trap for the entire summer is under $2. A 16-ounce bottle of apple cider vinegar runs about $1.79 at most grocery stores, and you are using a fraction of it per trap per week. The dish soap you already have, when all 3 pieces of this system run together, what happens is something the pest control model cannot replicate, because no monthly spray visit can do what this does. You eliminate the breeding conditions, so each generation of flies is smaller than the last instead of larger. You block the olfactory signals that guide flies to your entry points, so fewer flies are finding their way inside, and you trap the ones that do get in before they can breed inside your home. The population does not come back harder after a treatment the way it does when you spray visible flies and leave the source untouched. It diminishes over the course of the summer because you are working with the biology instead of against it. Here is what I want you to do this weekend. First, On Saturday morning, walk your property with a bucket. Drain every spot of standing water you can find. Clean the bottom of your outdoor trash cans with diluted white vinegar, a quarter cup per gallon of water. Scrub and let them dry in the sun. Turn your compost if you have one. Clear any wet organic material from your barn or garage. Pick up pet waste from the yard. This takes about an hour and costs nothing. Then go to the grocery store and spend $3 on a bag of whole cloves and pick up 2 lemons for under $1 each. When you get home, press 15 to 20 cloves into each lemon half and set them on saucers at your main fly entry points and trouble spots inside. The windowsill above the kitchen sink, the ledge near the back door, the counter next to the fruit. Finally, mix up 1 or 2 apple cider vinegar traps. Mason jar, an inch of vinegar, 2 drops of dish soap, plastic wrap with pencil holes. Put one on the counter, one under the sink if needed. Replace the vinegar weekly. First year total cost: under $8 for the cloves, the lemons, and the vinegar. Every year after that, you are spending $3 on a new bag of cloves and a few lemons. The mason jars last indefinitely. The vinegar is less than $2 for the whole season. Compare that to $150 to $350 for a single professional visit, or $40 to $75 a month on a service contract. The math does not require any explanation. You can do it yourself in a morning for the price of a cup of coffee and some change. I want to be honest with you about the one limitation of this system. If you have a very severe established infestation already inside your home, the cloves and the traps will reduce the population over a week or two, but they will not eliminate it overnight. If flies have been breeding inside your walls or under your floorboards for weeks and the infestation is dense, you may need to find and eliminate that interior breeding source first, before this system reaches its full effect. In most homes, that means checking under leaky plumbing in the cabinet under the sink, checking the back of the refrigerator where drip trays collect moisture, and checking any area where there might be a dead animal inside a wall or attic space. Those situations are real, and I am not going to tell you a lemon with cloves solves a dead raccoon in your attic. It does not. But for the ordinary seasonal fly problem that the majority of American homeowners deal with every summer, this system handles it completely. Tell me in the comments what you found when you walked your property that first Saturday morning. Tell me what state you are in and what your fly situation looks like. A lot of people are genuinely surprised when they find the source, because it is almost never where they expected it to be. I want to hear what you discover. Next time, I am going to show you the same approach applied to mosquitoes, which is a related problem with a similar solution and a very similar gap between what the industry charges and what actually works. The principles carry over almost directly. It is the natural next step after today. Until then, walk that property on Saturday morning. And remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.